So, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's board meeting. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Dr. Lou Ann Decker to please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to excuse President Vendor-Dossalam tonight. She is still with family out of country, and we send her well wishes. So tonight is a meeting of the board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We do allow public comments later in the agenda. If you'd like to address the board on an agenda item, please fill out one of these cards and bring it up to the front of the dais prior to that agenda item. And at that time, you'll be allowed to speak to that agenda item. And if it is not in relation to an agenda item, we do have time for public comment at the end of our meeting tonight. Each of those times, you would have 3 minutes to address the board. Dr. Watts, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Vice President Strauss, members of the board, Ms. Halley, there are a few changes to the agenda. Resolution number 1533, protocol guidelines, has been added for board discussion and approval. And please also know, additionally, a first reading of new policy 1250, students on governing boards, has been removed from the agenda and will be added to a future agenda, a future board meeting agenda, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the changes to the agenda.
Move to approve changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, so we're going to start our meeting tonight with a proclamation. And tonight's proclamation is on National School Counseling Week. Whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools at all levels to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development. And whereas school counselors help parents or guardians focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children, and whereas school counselors in Washington are critical partners in the state's effort in improving academic achievement of students and reducing dropout rates, and whereas school counselors are critical to the mission of our schools and actively align their programs with school and district improvement efforts, and whereas school counselors continue to collaborate with professional organizations, public and private educational stakeholders, and schools officials to implement the OSPI endorsed best practice frameworks to their local districts. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District proclaim February 5th through the 9th, 2018 as National School Counseling Week in the Kent School District and urge all citizens to join in this observance. So this time I'd like to ask for all of our counselors that are in the audience to please stand to be recognized. Yay! And Karen, actually, would you like to come accept the proclamation? We very much appreciate what you do. And so we are now going to take a quick pause to do a photo op.
Our counselors.
So if the board will join me down here, and Karen, if you
Never stop.
she's like, I'm never coming again. We put you front center too. Great. right. So we're going to move on now to our presentation, and tonight we have a presentation on CTE update, and I believe Carmen Rom and Lori Paxton are going to be presenting.
So Vice President Strauss, Superintendent Watts, and Talley, we're very happy to be here tonight to give you an overview of the Career and Technical Education Program. Myself and Director Paxton will be giving you a little update on what is Career and Technical Education. We know we have some new folks in the audience and some new board members who may not be familiar with all the functions that are within Career and Technical Education. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes to the CTE program in 2017 and 18 overall in here at the Kent School District. And then we'll do a little update on some of the successes that we're having, some of the metrics for the CTE program, and looking forward, where we see ourselves going and to continue to benefit the students. One thing I will point out here is that we're going to have less slides presenting to you here than are in your packet or that are on the BoardDocs. There are some slides in there that provide a little bit more detailed information that everyone has available to them, but for this presentation, we want to keep it at a level that we can present the major components and move on. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lori for the next section.
Great, thank you. Vice President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Watts, thank you for having us here tonight. I'm excited to share with you some updates on our Career Technical Education Program. I'm Lori Paxton, Director of Career Technical Education. And just an overarching overview to start out with, Career Technical Education programs prepare students for the ever-changing world of work, maintain a commitment to developing student leaders, provide career exploration for all students, promote business and college partnerships, and led and continues to lead efforts in course equivalencies and cross-crediting, also known as dual credit, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a second here. So the first question to address, maybe you might be thinking, is where does CTE funding come from? And as you can see by the chart, primarily it comes from the state, from basic ed funding with enhancements. However, although this chart, I do not like this graphical representation because I feel like it minimizes it, but a huge portion of us is our Carl Perkins grant, which we get to do all of the extra things providing for staff and students, such as professional development, different career exploration activities, field trips, leadership development activities for students and staff. So while it looks small out here, it really is quite large. In addition to other grants and opportunities that we receive annually, and also sometimes opportunities just come up throughout the year, which are exciting. So that makes up the extra part of that. And the little note you might see on the bottom is, if you're not familiar, back in August, the legislature made a change. In the past, CTE funding gave 15% indirects to the district general fund, and in August, they changed that and reduced it to 5%. So, as you'll see through the remainder of the slides, there's some things that we have done, some reorganizational strategies in order to better utilize our additional, and I use the word additional lightly, our 10% that CTE did not spend in indirects, but we've been able to redistribute that and expand our programs. So, what is the CTE enrollment in the Kent School District? First of all, I'd like to say that it is a graduation requirement that all graduating students take at least one credit of a career technical education, or you might know it as OC-Ed in the course catalog, but one credit at least of that. Most, I would say, take more, and some many more than one credit. So essentially, all students at some point in their high school career are CTE students. So it's really difficult to say CTE students versus not CTE students because all students will be CTE. But right now, as you can see, we currently have in high school 1,507 FTE, which equals 7,535 classes worth of students. So every day in the Kent School District, over 7,000 students are sitting in a CTE class in high school. And as you can see in the middle school, we have 980 classes. So 980 middle school students are sitting in a CTE class. And as you can also see, that has increased every year for the last 3 years. And if you're thinking, why the increase? That's what the next slide is going to answer. And so particularly for this year, for the 17-18 school year, we've added a few additional courses which count for that increase in FTE, including the social emotional learning at Kentwood High School. We acquired an existing forensic science class at Kent Lake High School, and we've added robotics classes at each of the middle schools. And that accounts for that huge jump from the previous year's middle school to this year, because now every single middle school has at least one, several have more than one section of robotics, and we're utilizing the Project Lead the Way curriculum. So all of the middle school robotics teachers have been trained through the national Project Lead the Way. And we've provided them with 2 different types of robots, and it's a really exciting, fun program, which that's not what this presentation is about, but I could do a whole presentation on that, and hopefully you'll get a chance to see it, and there'll be an article soon coming out about that. And then additionally, we focus on the student. We've added 2 additional career specialists to our staff, so now each comprehensive high school has 1 career specialist assigned to that high school along with their feeder middle schools, as opposed to just 2 in the past. So we doubled the amount of career specialists, and we continue using career specialists and others to market and encourage students of the benefits of our CTE courses to make them more well-known. Continuing on with what has changed for 2017-18 is now, with the reorganization of the district, CTE department direct reports, and me, I direct report to Carmen Rom, the IT department, and that has been a really exciting switch, and we realize how integral IT and CTE is, and that is, I can't even begin to explain how helpful that has been just so far since September. Also, the CTE department merged with the College and Career Readiness department because that really was a natural fit, and I'm not sure why it ever was not merged. So that's part of the benefit of our added funds that we had. We were able to absorb the College and Career Readiness department, which included taking on Randy Nunez, the existing College and Career /Family/Community Liaison position is now a CTE position. So a lot of those efforts were being duplicated amongst the departments, so now we're able to streamline those better. And then, as I mentioned, we added the 2 career specialists, and I think I already said those things. So those are the things that have changed for this year. And then that's just an overview of the organizational structure. And I really want to highlight on here is the advisory committee bubble, because really a foundation of all career and technical education programs are a strong advisory program, which are our business, community, parent, former student partners that help mold and shape and advise, that's the name, advise our programs. So that is a slightly crowded slide, but it is really explaining what our advisory committees are made up of. And like I said, business community partners in 13 of our program areas. We have program specific, which are smaller groups that meet twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring. And then we have a larger group, which in the past we called it the General Advisory Committee, and that was a representative from each of the 13 area groups. But with our merger with College and Career Readiness, we realized that we were missing some key partners that didn't quite fit into any of those areas. So we renamed the General Advisory Committee, and now we call it the College and Career Readiness Advisory Council, which not only includes representatives from our 13 program-specific areas, but also different college partners and outreaching to some different industry partners that may have not already been a part of the individual advisories, but really are important to bring in as an advisor. So that's the other switch and thing that's new and ongoing this year. Okay, and I think I'm going to turn it back over to you for a minute.
I guess we're here for a couple slides here, so thanks, Lori. She's got more energy than I do, and I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So one of the things we want to point out here is some of the changes we're making with bringing the college and career planning. We want the students to realize that there's more to the the career and technical education than just that next class they're taking. That there's a goal that we should be shooting for, and that goal is graduation, and that goal is what goes beyond graduation. So we kind of put this graphic together shortly after Lori and CTE came into IT to say, you know, our students are all graduating and we want all of our students to graduate. But we know that some of them are going to go out and they're going to go into military service, some of them are going to go on to a 4-year university, maybe beyond, a community and technical college, some of them are going to be entrepreneurs, start their own business right out of school. There's going to be other places, but this is all focused on that career. It's all focused on us through our career specialists in working with the students to make sure that they understand the goals and where we're headed, and then working with the CTE specialists to provide those programs and those new educational opportunities that are going to allow them to pursue the careers of today. So one of the things as part of that is to make sure that every student in middle school and high school has a program, a scope and sequence program of how they're going to see that graduation and see beyond. So here's just an example of the scope and sequence for a 7th grader. It's not overwhelming. There's just, about 2 hours worth of activities for the year. And then that will lead them into the 8th grade where they'll have more, and that will lead them into the 9th grade. So it helps with the transition from grade to grade, and obviously that big jump from 8th grade to 9th grade. But I use the analogy of a gymnast on a balance beam, because I had a daughter who was a gymnast. And, she always said, if you look straight down at your feet, you're more likely to fall off the beam. But if you're looking 12 or 15 feet in front of you and you're doing your activities, you're more likely to stay on the beam. So I use that analogy to say we want our students to be looking not just at that next class they're going to take, but at where that class is going to lead them. It's going to lead them to graduation. It's going to lead them to a career. And that they're more likely, I think, to stay on track and to be successful. And that's why we brought all this together, why we think it's so successful. So these are just the activities that a 7th grader has to achieve. And we're tracking that. And I don't want anyone to look at this and go, why are there so many zeros up there? Because I knew you would do that. And so don't do that, okay? For the first time, we're really taking that data back. We track that data. We get all the data back from our software that is put in place to track all this and provide these services. And we're just now, working with the middle schools and working with the middle schools and high schools. This has been in place to identify, and provide that feedback to the SIOs. So the zeros are fine because we're only a third of the way into the year. This is January. And a lot of these activities aren't activities that you're going to be doing in the September and October, November timeframe in the 7th grade. You're going to want them to get there. You're going to want them to get acclimatized in the schools. And then you're going to want to pursue these, later on, closer to the end of the 7th grade. But Randy's going to be working with Brad and then Eric and the principals and set some timelines on these as to when would you expect to see these things occurring in the curriculum, so then we can track them, because the goal here is really simple. We don't want college and career planning to be limited to those students who have a pre-affinity or whatever for that, whose parents may have went to college. We want that to be available to all students, and so we want to be tracking that and making sure that students aren't being left behind because they're not being given those opportunities. So that's really a big part of bringing all this together with the career and technical education program. So the graphic is more to show you that we are tracking it and the kind of things we're doing, not in any way, shape, or form at this point to show the levels of any school, because that's not what this is for.
Okay, just a couple more things to wrap up is just some basic data, as this is taken from the OSPI report card, where you can see the Washington State graduation rate, Kent School District graduation rate, and then the Kent CTE concentrator graduation rate. And as you can see below, that a CTE concentrator is a student a high school student who's taken 2 or more CTE classes in an upper level, they're called preparatory classes. So those students, as you can see, have a more than 2% higher graduation rate than the Washington State average, which is not all that exciting right now, but the point is that those students that our CTE concentrators are more likely to stay in school, and the national average also shows that they are more likely to graduate. And this is just looking at a snapshot. Obviously, there's different metrics, and it's good, but we can do better. And that's part of our goal, is to continue to increase graduation rates and increase student knowledge as to the importance of graduating.
And that's why we're so excited about those other things we showed with the college and career level, because we really think we can drive these numbers up by working with the students to see what's at the end of the beam rather than just what's that next step in front of them. And I really think we're going to have some great successes there. So.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think I mentioned before about an industry certification. So that's another big component of CTE, is students can earn industry certifications. And this behind me is a list of the industry certifications that our students earned last year for the 16-17 school year. And as you can see, total 1,734 students earned some sort of certification. And as you can see below, 99% of CTE concentrators took and passed a state or nationally recognized assessment of technical skills. So virtually all of our CTE concentrators received some sort of industry or nationally recognized certification. And that's great. I love that statistic. And we are continuing to increase the opportunities for students to earn certifications as they come about. So that's another goal. And then this is a very packed slide, but I really think it's important to highlight some of the other things. We do so many things, and CTE is such a huge program that really we could have many, many presentations, or I could have a very much longer presentation, which nobody wants, I know, so I'm wrapping it up. But I really just want to highlight a few things, which are, as I mentioned, our dual credit articulation, which is where CTE students earn college credit while taking classes in high school. And last year, 16-17, we had 7,797 KSD students qualify. That doesn't necessarily mean they got the credit, because they have to do one more step and go get the credit, but they have over 7,000, almost 8,000 actually, qualified for college credit, which is huge. And that's free of charge for them. We have several contracted programs. We have an amazing police science partnership at Camp Meridian High School. We have an aviation partnership with Crest Air Park, and then we have cosmetology opportunities down in Auburn for students. We have worksite learning and internships available, where students can earn credit while working and or participating in internships. And we have multiple student leadership organizations, and those are the state-sponsored ones up there. In addition, we have First Robotics, with I think everybody's familiar with that one, the FRC group at 2 of our high schools right now. And we also sponsor middle school summer camps, and then partner with the Regional Fire Authority for a high school fire summer camp. So again, I promised I would be brief on this, but I'm just really excited about all of our extra programs, and I would love to talk to you about it in the future if you have more questions about those. So I will let you.
With that, we're available for questions. All those programs that Lori just mentioned on that one very busy slide, we just consolidated those to one slide. And if you'll notice in your packets that you have it on the board docs, there is an individual slide for each one of those with a little bit more information, details, and photographs and things like that. So with that, we'll open it up to any questions.
Great. So any questions?
Yeah. Hi, thank you. So I had a question. Can you just kind of tell me what kind of went into choosing to start the scope and sequence and that in the 7th grade? Thinking about kind of, as you mentioned, it's kind of a change for a lot of kids, getting used to the schedules, getting used to classes. And I'm just wondering kind of what went into that, and as opposed to maybe 8th grade, what went into the decision to start there?
Okay. I'll do my best answering that. Maybe even Brad, could jump in here and jump up and chime in on that. For we have license to use the product from 7th to the 12th grade, because we really feel that that's where, we need to start contacting the students and get them thinking about, that transition to 8th grade and that transition to freshman and things like that. I work pretty closely with the Washington Technology Industry Association, whose main goal in the state and in the Puget Sound is to create the workforce of the future by growing our own. And they used to go to colleges, and then now they went to high schools, and now they say we've got to start in the 7th grade or earlier. So I think that's part of it. But
and I'd say every middle school has kind of an advisory period And so for 7th grade, because this is a transition year for us as opposed to 6th grade, a lot of that time is spent doing a lot of our second step work. And so we're doing a lot of that thing, focus on getting used to environment, how to adjust to 6 classes, things of that nature. So you'll see more of the Naviance work go into the high school and beyond plan, which every student will have going into high school, so 8th grade. And you'll see more of that happening throughout the year. So it's scheduled strategically. It's about adapting to your environment first and working on those structures, making sure they have that social emotional support.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Just, I was wondering about career specialists. What are their credentials? You said we had 2 already. Now we've
Right.
got 2 more.
Right. They're professional technical employees. So their main job, which there's an extended in your packet, there's an extended job duties list of them, but really is to work with students and to help students guide them towards their career pathway.
They're not considered a
So
career counselor.
they're not counselors, yeah. No, they don't have counselors. 2 of them happen to have teaching certifications, but that's not a requirement for the job. It's just.
Another question is, I thought the middle school summer camps looked really interesting, and I wonder, how do students get into those? How do they apply for them?
We advertise them early spring, and it's grown. This will be our 4th year. So each year we've added another camp, and we've grown. Last year I advertised it to all middle school students, and it started out with just, if it was at Meeker, for instance, then it was just for Meeker students, but then we said, that's silly, why don't we offer it to everybody? So last year we did offer it to all students, although we don't provide transportation, which that's tough for other students to go, but so yeah, so it's advertised on the website, on emails, we direct email parents and students, posters.
I just have a comment. I thought this was interesting because it kind of coincided with something I did today. I sent a poster, a motivational poster with a big picture of a road on it, and it said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And that's so perfect with what you were saying. That's how we need to focus beyond. So,
Yeah.
well done.
Thank you. Ross?
I think it's in our extended packet, getting through the contracted programs and some of the internships. And there's a handful, but do you have any expansion plans, new partners, or any kind of goals you have in making more contracted programs available or more spots within the program, whatever it is?
We're always open to expanding more into that. Right now, I'm not aware of any immediate plans for expanding.
The only thing we're really trying to do, and I don't know if it falls into that ballpark or not, but Lori and I have been trying to set up, and begin meeting, I mentioned the Washington Technology Industry Association, which is centered out of Seattle, and that's where their headquarters are, and they represent hundreds and hundreds of technical organizations and companies within the Puget Sound area. And so we're trying to get up a meeting together with Julie Chin, who's the vice president there that we would work with, to then create those partnerships so we can, start growing our students and focusing in those areas. So that may be another area that you're referring to that we're trying to reach out to and create that partnership, because we think the opportunities there are huge, especially as Dr. Watts, regularly reminds us all that there are, I think 750,000 jobs predicted in the Northwest just over the next several years in technology, in the thousands of technology jobs that are unfilled. And so that's why the partnership, I think, between the IT division and career and technical education coming together was really a great marriage to work out. So,
Thank you.
So you answered one of mine. I was curious what that new Career and Readiness Advisory Council was, because I've sat or had sat in previous years for quite a few years on a couple of those committees. So tell me about how you selected some of the colleges, and how often does that committee meet, that new committee?
Right now, we had a kickoff event last spring, and then we had our inaugural event in October of this year, and we have plans to meet again in the spring, late April-ish, probably. So twice a year, possibly 3 times a year. This year we're doing twice a year. And as far as as who we invited, really our local partners. We invited, obviously, everyone we have articulations with. We invited them. We invited University of Washington, of course, Central. I guess essentially the local. I'm saying them, and they're all the local ones. So.
Okay, great. And so my other question had to do with the scope and sequence. So is part of that, does that give the opportunities of what things are open in the district? When I was looking at things like career, things to help you pick careers, but I didn't see where one of the things we've struggled with over the years is on career and technical education. How do we let people know that there's all these opportunities? So is part of the hope of the scope and sequence to help people know more about it? And how do we get that still to our parents as well?
I can't answer, this time I really don't have the answer how we get it to the parents.
Yeah.
What I do have is I can provide you with, and we can put it in the packet, or we can get this to you guys, what the scope and sequence of an activities are for all the grades, 7th, 8th, 9th. So some of the things you're talking about, the 7th grade is kind of, and again, I'm maybe speaking out of turn here for Brad and stuff, but it's kind of, dipping your toe in the water and seeing if the lake is ready for you to jump into or not, and then understanding the steps you need to take to start getting more and more. And then the 8th grade, you're going to dive into it deeper, and you're going to be looking at it, and by the 9th and 10th and 11th grades, you're going to be picking universities, you're going to be looking at schools, you're going to be laying out what it's going to be helping you determine what your professions are going to be and what universities line up with your careers and how far you want to be from school, from home. All this stuff is built into that, uploading information. So it really is a building process over the 6-year period. So.
Great, but also it does include some of the things of like, hey, at this school, if there's a police information, or here you can have this to help our students be aware of the opportunities that we have within our district as well to help them get to those potential of what they're going to do in the future.
I just want to add another important point. The last 2 years, we have intentionally added in the CTE classes that will also provide credit. With Core 24 coming, we want to have students have both, one, an opportunity to explore, learn, and also obtain credit. So as they go into their feeder high schools, they're kind of ahead of the curve and they continue to explore. So it kind of takes what we may not feel, but it's very much real and stressful for them, this graduation component. And so that's been another added piece that's proven to be positive as our students grow through the CT program.
And the thing I can answer, part of your question that I kind of overlooked, and I apologize for that, is you mentioned the parents' involvement. And we met with all of the principals that are involved in this here earlier to decide, because there are cheaper tools than Naviance, okay, there are, but they don't do hardly anything. And they'll even admit it. And so when we met with the principals were very clear about the extra tools that are in Naviance that they really like, that are going to allow us to take this to the next level. And one of them is the parent portal, where parents can log into Naviance and they can see what their child's doing, and they can see what their child is pursuing and how they're doing with their portfolio and all the different things that are coming together. So it is involving that parent, and that was really a driving point for, I know, a lot of our principals and assistant principals involved, that they said that is a component that they don't want to live without, because it's just starting to proliferate. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your enthusiasm, and like I said, this is a great opportunity so that as we continue to increase the opportunities for our students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So we will move on to 4.0. First one is 4.01. This is Resolution 1533, Revised Protocol Guidelines. And I'm asking for a motion to adopt Resolution 1533, Revised Protocol Guidelines.
Motion to adopt 1533, whatever else was it you said.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Actually, I had one, so.
Just to let people know that we met in our board superintendent's governance team, and we really looked at this and talked about this, and got our new people involved in giving us feedback, and so this is, while a lot of it is what we've had before, it just has a new little shine to it.
Others? Was that yes or no? Okay. So I didn't know, part of our discussion that we had that I wasn't 100% sure if we were okay with how it was captured was in regards to answering email communications.
Which number is it, Deb?
It would be, I think part of 5 is where we had talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
And, because we were clarifying in between 5 and, where did it go? About just as far as that we could, answering emails, and, now I'm trying to remember what the exact wording was.
So I think, were we talking about the time that, or were we just talking about who answers and what?
Yeah, the who answers and whether, if it was related to a decision that had been made in a board meeting
Yeah.
versus a general question.
I
And I'm
remember-
okay with that not being here, I just wanted to make sure we were, because we had a lengthy discussion about that.
I think I remember us talking about if it is a general question that one of us can answering, but also copying the
Correct.
board on the answer, was what I recall us talking about. And then if it is something that is a larger issue, that the board president would answer as well as copying. That was what I remember us discussing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I remember that, but we just, it wasn't spelled out in here, so I'm just
Oh,
saying,
okay.
are we okay with it not spelled out in here? Since we all seem to be in agreement of what it was, so, or do we want to revise that?
I'm okay with it. Mainly because we talk about following the chain of command, which we
Yep.
kind of already have the chain of command within our board, that the president would speak on major issues.
Yeah. Everybody okay? All right. Excellent. I just wanted to bring it up since
Yeah.
we talked about it. All right. So if there's no further discussion, I will call for the motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 1533, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. All right. So that actually takes us to consent agenda. Is there anything that you would like pulled from the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Karen?
5.03, 5.06, and .07, 5.08, and 5.13. Sorry,
So I have 3, 6, 7, 8, and 13.
3, 6, 7, 8, 13, yes.
Okay. Any others?
I have 5.14.
5.14, got it. Denise, anything you wanted?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Karen already pulled what I wanted, so. All right, so I am going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, less 5.03, 5.06, 5.07, 5.08, 5.13, and 5.14.
So moved. Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
And do we have a second?
I will second,
Thank you. All right, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion passes. We will start with 5.03. I know I was looking for this one also, but Karen, I'll let you go ahead first.
Well, I just have, there's just one little point that I have that's, I guess I had two questions on it. There's on top of page 2.
It's for this one, right?
Oh my God, that's the actual AP seminar piece, so there we go.
Were you finding it? Do you want me to ask my question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I had 2 questions on 5.03. One was the fact that it looks like there was no committee really approver. It was just the initiator on this. And so kind of wondering why, since it was a new course, it didn't go through the regular.
Well, it went through the HSIC, the High School Instructional Council approved it.
Okay.
It was just initiated by Josh, one of the assistant principals at Kent Ridge, who's been working with the College Board to offer alternative AP courses. And this one is, unlike, most of the courses have a specific name, of course, like AP Literature and Language or something like that. This one is more of a literacy course. It is going in under English, the ELA, but it is a reading and writing course, but it's not one of their regular AP language and literature types of courses. So it would be for sophomores or students maybe later who decided they wanted to sample an AP class without committing as fully, perhaps.
Okay, and then the other thing that I was curious about is that both under the content concerns and community awareness, yes was checked on these. And so just wondering a little bit more on how that, because it could have controversial, and I'm guessing that may be because of material that was picked for class reading, how that's communicated, and it did indicate there was additional training for staff, so just
Well,
wondering-
anytime that you would, anytime teachers teach an AP class, they go to the college board's training on how to teach that class. So the teacher or teachers involved would go to the summer training. Kent Ridge will send that teacher to the training. In terms of any sort of controversy, it's just that almost any topic in terms of ELA or current events or could be conceived as controversial by someone, or a particular text. You know, sometimes we have parent complaints about a text that's used, a novel that's read. They don't want their student reading that book. We come up with alternatives. So I think he was just being very careful to say, yes, in any course that has, really almost any course could be perceived as having potential controversy. It's not that it is, there's nothing inherent in the course. And as a matter of fact, they're using the materials that are currently being used in 10th grade honors, and we don't experience any issues with them. So I wouldn't see any particular reason to have more issues with this course.
But because it's seminar and not a predefined and prescribed permanent curriculum, there could be. And so recognizing that, they just called it out up front rather than saying no and then hitting an issue later.
I appreciate that. I just wanted a little more clarification on it. Thank you.
And the way I sort of figured that out was that the students are going to be picking out their own topics and things to choose from, and those are
Saw
going to
that,
be inherently controversial if they're picking various sides, so
Yeah.
that's that. Just, I had my red pencil out, on the second page, that first paragraph where it says, the fourth line down, it says, determined that KR would apply to college bound, shouldn't that be college board? Seeking approval to become an AP capstone school.
Oh, yeah, college, a college board, yes.
Sorry, just
Okay.
my teacher.
I didn't
has
catch
stuff
that
like
on Josh's proposal, so.
Okay, other than that, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so 5.06?
The 5.06 and 5.07 are basically the intro to chemistry and intro to physics. They're only at Kent Lake right now. They're looking at putting it only at Kent Lake, and I was wondering, it sounds like, because of the way it read was it's being addressed that there may be some underserved students that would apply for these courses than maybe the other full-year courses. And I don't know what makes them more likely to get those, but the other thing is, it seems to me it should be at all schools, and maybe it's just starting out 1 year at Kent Lake and then moving on, but I know KPA could probably use something like that too.
So the initial proposal was made because Kent Lake was ready to implement and had a higher readiness level than the other high schools. After some conversation with Dr. Hong and high school principals, we recognize that there's a need to make that offering to all high school students, and so that will be an offering for all students. It was just initiated in one place. And that discussion happened in the midst between posting it and actually having the conversation and having this meeting this evening. And so we kind of figured that was going to come up, but it is going to be offered to all students.
Good.
So,
That's good.
and that goes for both NGSS courses. So if that's a question related to .07, it's the same answer.
Yeah, same thing.
So,
Okay, so 5.08?
I am so excited about this, the percussion ensemble. I went to the Brian Eckerson, it's Eckerson, is that how you pronounce his name? The concert earlier this year where they had the drum line, and he was so engaging, and you could tell he was just a teacher of music. And I just love the fact that this class is going to be open to all levels of skill, whether they're beginners or not. So if these are students in high school who haven't done any music but sort of wanted to try it, or would like the idea of banging on a drum, they can do that, and he'll work with them at all different levels. Also, that they're doing music from other cultures and other countries. I mean, that's right there for us. The only thing is, at one point it said money will be needed for the clothing for some of the students, for the students who are going to be out in public. And I wonder, maybe they'll be developing an avenue for those who can't afford or need help buying the clothing. But I would hate to see anybody excluded from that, because from the presentations, because they don't have the right clothing.
That's a legitimate possibility, but performing arts teachers, staff members have very creative ways of identifying uniforms that are low cost, that are generic, everything from
White shirts
jeans and black
pants.
t-shirts, white t-shirts. I mean, so there are some ways where we can help, recognizing that there are students who may not be able to afford certain things, so where we can figure out how to come up with creative ways that all students have an opportunity to participate, and it's not uniform that restricts that, so.
Good.
All right, 5.13.
I think that's it for us.
This goes right along the same lines. The Kentwood Keek Club, they're on their field trip. It says only those who can pay get to go. It was real clearly, it said on the form, only those who can pay get to go. And I'm wondering, are there students that are excluded because they can't pay?
Well, at this time, what they put down here, there could be more that could go. I think it shows who has interest at this time, and so they give us that information. But I'll follow up with them to make sure that we're not excluding anybody.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so 5.14.
Of 5.14, specifically on the capital project vouchers, we get a lot of vouchers, usually don't get a $2 million one coming across. Just wanted to verify what that is for, where that is in the capital project, percent complete, and how are we satisfied that whoever's doing this has made enough to make that payment?
Is that on the
And our
new-
staff,
new-
yes, our staff actually is going to be able to speak to that, is not here this evening. What we'll do is retain that information, and I will certainly follow up with you as soon as we have that information. Okay, thank you.
So you okay, still have that on consent agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to approve 5.03, 5.06, 5.07, 5.08, 5.13, and 5.14.
I'll list them all. I move to approve 5.03,
You don't have to
5.06. All of those.
Actually, when we get into the ones that have got lots of numbers, I'd like to have somebody
Okay.
try. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's been a motion and been approved. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. All right, so I will call for the vote on the motion on the table. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion passes. All right, so we are on to 6.01. So this is under our Board of Directors informational information. So these are some policies for first reading. And I'm not sure who's answering questions for, Israel Vela and Randy, are you here as well? Excellent. All right, so, all right, we are on point. Okay, 6.01, did anyone have questions or anything on 6.01? Okay, I did. So 6.01, it's policy at the very end. There's fees under exceptions, and I was just wondering, I guess do we actually charge fees for early assessment for preschool, and how is that actually, or for?
Yeah, there are fees charged for early entry for kindergarten if they do not meet the age requirements. However, there is a sliding scale for families that qualify.
Thank you. That was my only question on that one, so. Any questions on 6.02? Karen, did you have? Okay, I did. Sorry. 6.02, it indicates there's no procedure at this point. Is that something that we're working on? And the reason for my question is, in reading the policy, it talks about notification to staff in certain circumstances. And so I'm just wondering, do we have that laid out as what that notification looks like?
Yeah, this is one that also there is no model policy at WASDA for this policy. So, I mean, no model procedure for this. And so it basically just lays it right out in the policy. It doesn't give specifics about how you're supposed to notify. It just says it's the responsibility when they learn this information to notify the appropriate. And we actually have procedures around levels of threat and who needs to be notified depending on that level of threat.
Okay, perfect. I thought we did. I just wanted to verify that, so thank you. Okay, 6.03, this is a policy 3131, attendance area transfers. Any questions on this first reading? I actually don't have one on this one. 6.04, this is policy 3140, release of resident students. Any questions? Okay. 6.05, revised policy 3141, non-resident students. Any questions? Okay. And 6.06, revised policy 3416, medication at school. Any questions?
At KPA, I know they've got the clinic there at KPA, and I know they have over-the-counter things like Tylenol and all. Those can be given, I believe, without parent permission. Is that right?
Depending on the age, but at that age, they could be.
Okay.
Or typical KPAs.
KPA, yeah.
I guess my question is, suntan lotion a problem? Like,
Those sun rays can be.
So I can answer
I
that.
don't get a lot of sun, but,
So WASDA now has changed and updated their policy, and so we're aligning ourselves with that. Yes, in the past, we had to have, permission, prescription, et cetera, so it was treated like a medication. For a lot of kids have reactions to that, et cetera. So up until recently, so more specifically, allowing if a parent gives permission or a guardian, then it can be only to their student. And so that's just the update for this policy procedure.
I just found that interesting. I was like,
We have to keep looking at the WASDA pieces to be aligned, so.
all right. Okay, so I don't think we have any further questions. So this was a first reading, so then these will come back at a subsequent meeting to be approved.
Right, and one other thing we'd like to add is that we provided the procedure there for you so that you can see some pieces needed to be there rather than keep them separate. Also, this aligns with our timeline as we're moving into 1819 so that we make sure that we have these in place as we're moving forward for 1819.
Great.
So
Thank you,
look
Jim.
forward to the second reading. Thank you.
And there'll be spelling corrections and grammatical corrections between now and then? Okay.
Very best. Make sure they're,
Sorry.
But if you've noticed any and you want to send an email, that would be
please do.
I might.
appreciated. All right. So we will move on to 7.0. The first thing we have is communication from the audience, and I'm not aware of any cards, so. Okay. Then we will move on to legislative update. Ross.
Sure. Well, very soon, meaning next Monday, is the Legislative Down the Hill, which WASDA helps sponsor that. They've got a team there, as all districts can come down and talk to their different legislatures. We have two primary representative districts, and we had been for several years send cohort students with a legislative representative down there. We have some going, though our cohort will be much smaller for scheduling reasons with student finals. But we're going down there anyway, so this is a chance to both have the students meet with legislatures and Supreme Court justices, but even us as myself and then the other members of the district that are going to help talk about WASDA's legislative priorities, which haven't changed much, but they're mainly around getting that school funding right. They've got the plan in place and making sure that that gets finalized and pushed through, because we're one of those, where, like a lot of districts, we're the one that the levy cap hits us, a lot lower than what we might need, as opposed to others who can go up to $250 per student. So we're going to be doing that. I think we're meeting with almost all of them that are going to be in there in session, as well as the Supreme Court Justice, who was working on the McCleary decision, and so we'll get her perspective as well.
Very cool. Well, thank you. All right, so Dr. Watts, Superintendent report, please.
Yes, and first of all, thank you, Vice President Strauss, members of the board, Ms. Halley, and staff, community members and friends. Community conversations, that's the key term for today. And if some of you have already heard that for the next week and a half or so, we will be on the road. And the road show begins at our middle schools, where community conversations on important topics such as our budget and our upcoming levy will take place. So starting January 25th, 6:30 to 7:30 in the library at Meridian Middle School. January 26th, 6:30 to 7:30 in the library at Matson Middle School. January 29th, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. in the library at Northwood Middle School. January 31st, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the library at Meeker Middle School. And February 1st, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. in the library at Cedar Heights Middle School. And last but certainly not least, February 2nd, 6:30 to 7:30 in the project room at Mill Creek Middle School. And so these sites are hosted based on feeder patterns from our high schools. And again, if families have not heard, they will be hearing very shortly through a automated dialer. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our communications team, who has done an extraordinary job at organizing these community conversations. And it's a good opportunity for us to meet our newest member of Team KSD. And I'd like to introduce Director of Communications, Ms. Melissa Laramie, who is in the audience today. And let's give her a round of applause and a welcome. Melissa just recently joined us from the Puget Sound Education Service District, otherwise known as PSESD. She has an extensive background in communications, and she has often received high praise from teachers, community members, and school support staff for her creative and effective use of professional development, social media, proactive communication strategies, and engagement in the community. So we welcome you and welcome aboard. Thank you, Melissa. I also want to say congratulations to Karen. Thank you for remaining here, because I did not want you to leave, our counselor representative for all counselors. And as she knows, she will always represent our KSD counselors. Each one is my second favorite counselor. You have to know that, and you know why. My wife is a counselor, and so she always holds that #1 spot. But I do appreciate that all that you do to support our children, as well as the adults who are supporting them throughout each and every day in Kent School District. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. All right, so at this point, we will go to board reports and discussion. Did you want to start, Denise?
Yeah, so I just had the opportunity, I'm not sure if you guys noticed when you came in, I was with a group of about 13 little fourth grade Webelos. And so they're, okay, let me get it right. It's not troop, it's pack. Okay, pack leader. I made the mistake of saying troop. Reached out to me, and she wanted to it's actually part in their book, part of their activities to talk to a newly elected leader, and so they chose me. And so so I got an email from her, and I've been very excited. They were fantastic. They had so many good questions, and they were so cute. And I told them, you guys probably know I have a rather large family, and we were trying to take a picture afterwards. I said, oh, it's just like taking a family picture for me. So trying to get them all to stand and smile and look at the camera at the same time. And but it was great. They had lots of great questions, and I was really excited. And they actually asked me about the name of what we do, and they actually came up with the name I love, which is the Master Wizard Principal.
was the name that they thought we should have, so as school board directors. And I said I would bring it to you guys and see what you thought about it. But anyway, that was fantastic. So that just made my day. I loved it. They were great. So we spent about 25 minutes together. So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
I got the opportunity again to go to the Kent Area Council PTSA monthly meeting on Monday, and it was nice being back there. And I must say, Carmen presented. He was so electric as Carmen can be, and he talked about things to come and visions for the district, and it was very exciting. So well done, Carmen. Very well done. I was at Emerald Park yesterday to do my mentoring, and as I was in the office signing in or signing out, I don't remember which one, but Principal Ficken said, "Karen, come here." And the police officer, the last 2 times I've been there, the police car has been out in front of the school with the lights flashing, and I thought, oh, I don't know what's going on. Engine was running even. I think, geez, ready for a quick getaway. But the police officer who works there, and I know his first name is Kevin, and I forgot his last name, but he was carrying a big cardboard box, and Dean Ficken said, "Come take a look at this." And he pulled out T-shirts that have the Emerald Park Navigator logo on them and the Kent Police Department logo. And this is for students who achieve certain things. And I just thought, how cool that is, that they would be able to wear those 2 logos together. So that was great. And tomorrow, I am going to the 6th Equity Convening, and our own Brad Brown is facilitating again. He did such a beautiful job last time that, sort of like at the Oscars when they get called back to be the MC.
That's right.
You done good, Brad. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Thank you.
Like on that, I'll be with you there tomorrow. I'm definitely looking forward to
good,
tomorrow.
good.
That'll be good. And then, as mentioned before, we're going down to Olympia. And then earlier this week, I had our annual risk assessment interview with the state auditor. Very brief, very, very standard. But I wanted to let you know that went well. There was really nothing to report. Answered the standard questions that only auditors really care about. That we are functioning as expected, and we get the information that we expect to get when we expect to get it. Kind of the summary of the interview there.
Great. Thank you for doing that. And thank you. Karen's going to take my place. I was originally scheduled to go to Olympia with the students, and I had a priority at work switch, and I can no longer go. So thank you, Karen, for stepping up and doing that for me.
Forward to it.
Yeah, I'll be there in spirit. And then a couple other things coming up next week, but we'll save that for next time. So I just wanted to say I do really appreciate everything that everyone does in this room. So I'm often reminded as I look around at different things in the district or different families or students that we come in contact with, how much impact we really have on our students by the things that we do. And I appreciate what you do and the time that you take away from your families to make sure that those things happen for the benefit of our students. So have a wonderful rest of your night, and we will see you again soon. Our meeting is adjourned.
All right.